I'm Rob Peña. I am a faculty member in the Department of Architecture at the University of Washington, and I teach courses in design and in energy and high-performance building. What makes this building probably very likely the greenest urban commercial office building in the world is that it generates all its own electricity, or it will, we believe it will. It collects all of its need for water. It doesn't put any sewage back into the system, so it's self-reliant on water, sewage. And in as much as possible, it's trying to restore the ecological relationship that this site had with the hydrologic cycle when it was a Douglas fir forest. Well, one of the reasons this site was chosen was because it's very walkable and they're pretty good public transport. You can catch the number 10 across the street, it'll take you downtown in a jiffy. I get back and forth between here and the university on my bike. Buildings account for about half of the energy used in the United States. In the U.S., about half of our energy goes into buildings. A good bit of that to operate buildings, and a portion of that into constructing buildings. And 3/4 of the electricity used in the U.S. flows through buildings. So if we're going to make major changes to the amount of carbon we put into the atmosphere, buildings are a huge opportunity. We have a long-standing tradition and history of activist, progressive, environmental thought and activities. So this is a natural place. It's also important because, this is the least sunny part of the continental U.S. When you look at a map of the U.S., the part that has the least sun is right up here in this corner of the country. But you compare the map of the U.S. and solar resources to Germany, which is about 1/5 the size, and we look like the brightest, sunniest part of Germany. But Germany has 3 times the photovoltaics that the entire United States has. So, there's a big question about our will and our priorities and the direction that we're going into the future. And this building is aimed at showing that it can be done. People will no longer be able to say you can't do it because this is living proof that it can be done. To me, I think the most obvious ones are it's timber construction, which isn't completely obvious from the outside, but you'll see once we go upstairs. Timber is a renewable resource. It's harvested sustainably, used responsibly. I think that big old sombrero, that big rain bonnet up above, I think that's a fitting way for a building to meet the sky. That lovely big old iconic hat. I think the shiny hot silver skin, these are where Boeing aircraft are made. I think that skin that'll last a long time, I think that's an appropriate kind of clothing for this building to wear. So those are all things that the architects thought about when making sort of a place-based building. We think the future of architecture are buildings like this one that are fundamentally responsive to their climate and specific to their climate. It will bring back that sense of place that architecture used to imbue a city with. And we think this building is a northwestern looking building inside and out. Good thing for the overall utility grid, because in the summertime, when the other buildings downtown turn on their air conditioners and cause peak demand for electricity, this building is going to be producing a surplus of electricity. In the wintertime, when there's a lot of hydroelectric power available, this building will be running off that hydroelectric power. This building is a performance-based standard, or the Living Building Challenge. So you get certified after you've proven over a year, at least a year of operation, that you've met net zero energy, net zero water, and that you've amortized out, or you've accounted for all the carbon that went into the construction and offset it elsewhere. So all of the petals of the Living Building Challenge you have to prove before you get your certification. And we think that's the future of certification. We really don't have time for good intentions. We need performance-based standards. The building doesn't use a lot of water, 300 or 400 gallons a day, which is equivalent to a large residence. And that's because there's no toilet flushing. There's only sinks for washing hands, drinking, and showers. We have parking for about 50 bicycles, so presumably a lot of people will be biking here, and so they may want to shower with rainwater. This is one of those illegal activities that we're proposing to do, which is to drink our own rainwater. It's a 950 square foot room, about 8 feet tall, and it can hold 56,000 gallons of rainwater. But the University of Washington, in taking management and ownership of this space and our research lab upstairs, which I'll show you, is building a platform to provide the world with unbiased knowledge and information about this building and its performance. Because if we're going to build more of these, we need more information about how it's done. And Dennis Hayes has told us that this is still the greenest commercial urban office building in the world in 10 years. We will have failed. It's our responsibility to get the information out there and propagate more of these buildings. Here's something that I think gives me some hope when I feel despairing about the scale of our problems. And that is, we can think of addressing environmental problems maybe at two levels. And one would be urban ecology, and one would be environmental management. Two ends of the spectrum, or two different ways. Environmental management we might think of as solving one issue everywhere. So solving the issue of carbon in the atmosphere globally is an environmental management problem. But solving how to close all of your resources, solving all of your resource matters, loops, in one location, that's the work of urban ecology. And that's what's being done here, is how can we address all of our material and resource needs in one place, address all of them in one place. And that's urban ecology. And when we think about thinking globally and acting locally, I'm afraid sometimes that can distract us and maybe be disconcerting, because really all we can really do is act locally. That's where the work begins, and that's home economics, that's urban ecology, taking care of things in our locales.
Ha ha ha.